If you want people to watch your videos on YouTube, then they have to actually click on your video. And if this is your video, and these are the videos around it, do you think that that's going to be the video that they're going to click on? Okay, that's all well and fine, but where do we actually get started? Hold up. It's not with making the video first. Because the idea is that the thumbnail should be able to encapsulate the idea of the video in a successful way. And if you're not able to do that, then maybe the idea for the video isn't quite right. Now, this may conflict with your artist sensibilities, but I think there's room for both. So we've got a video idea, and then we have a working title. And then we just have to figure out a way to show that in a thumbnail. Now, personally, I resonate more with thumbnails that have a face in them. Usually I care about particular creators and their videos. And so when I see their face, I want to watch their videos. And also faces just convey emotion that we connect with. And so that'll help draw people into a thumbnail. Now, to make the process of adding my face to thumbnails easier, I just took 20 minutes one afternoon and I recorded my face and I made a bunch of different poses. Then I was able to take screen grabs from that, put them in a folder, labeled them all, and then whenever I have a thumbnail that I'm working on, I can just drag in one of those thumbnails and fit it to the video that I'm working on. Now there's lots of things that I'm kind of glossing over here, but I don't want to overly complicate it for you if this is all new. So when I'm creating my thumbnails, I'm aiming for 4 elements. Some sort of background, whether it's an image, a white background, or a color gradient. On-screen text, usually around like 5 or 6 words, but just as a starting point. And then some sort of supporting image. Okay, so we have some sort of foundation built. Let's take this into actual practice and see how it works. Here's my Notion doc for my next video. And I've gone onto Google. I popped in a reference video here. So that's part of the initial ideation process of, hey, what videos are already out there? And then I just have a few title ideas here. I'm not loving these though. These are not my favorite and they're not really catching. So typically I'd really be close to a final idea for the title before I jump into the thumbnail. But for the purposes of this video, we're just gonna pretend like we have that. So let's go over to Photoshop. This is the thumbnails that I was working on for that last video. And I think the one that I finally used was this one right here. That's what I finally used. So because this is kind of in the similar vein of not using, but creating, we're gonna go with a similar idea. And I'll show you kind of all the elements that I used to make this up. I'm going to create a new Photoshop document. I want mine 1920 by 1080. It'll just be a nice thing. All these are fine. Although I want the background contents to be transparent. That'll just be, nope, transparent. That'll be easier. And then I will title this. Now I'm going to go to layer first. I'm going to do new and then artboard because I want to be working off artboards here. So I'm going to call this thumb 01. You know, I'm fairly eclectic. This is not a seamless, like very thought out process of like, oh, I'm gonna first plan out what elements that I have. No, I'm not doing that. So I know that I'm gonna be talking about creating motion graphics templates. So that's gonna be in After Effects. So what I might do is I might just drop over to Google. So later I might recapture something for myself, but for now it'll be easier to just kind of get started. I just want to get things on paper. The things that I download for this go into here and then just label it. It makes life easier. Sure, let's do that. I'm going to save this to my downloads. So we'll take this and we'll bring this into Photoshop. That's great. Do something like that. Now, I don't want the main focus to be on the background. So there's a few things that I'm going to do. I'm going to rotate it and that kind of just immediately offsets it from the main focus. I can duplicate it by hitting Command J. Here, we're going to go to filter. We're going to go to blur and we'll do Gaussian blur and we'll just add a good amount. And then we're going to change the blending mode on this to linear add like this. And then going to go to here and we're going to add a curves. Then on that, like right in between here, while I press Option, this little arrow pops up We're going to click it. And this means that the curves are only going to apply to this layer underneath it. So that just adds this sort of like, I don't know, dreamy sort of like look to it. And then we could put all of these, select all of it and put it into a folder. And we'll call this background. And then with that folder selected, we'll go up to filter. Oh, can I not do that? I totally thought I could add a filter to a layer like that. We might, I'm actually going to duplicate it. I'll hide the folder because I want to be able to come back to it if I need to, but I might just right click here and then merge group. Take that, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then just do that. It's a lot of steps for just kind of doing something like that, but I think that it's just worth it. So then I want to bring my face in here. So I'm going to go to where I have those, and that's going to be right here. So I have a bunch of different ones here. I have like guru ones. I think that's funny. Let's do the finger guns because that's silly. So then I'll take that and I'll bring that into here. Now I did not take these with any sort of green screen. That's fine. Photoshop does this remove background automatically here. And that usually works pretty well. Actually, that worked way better than it usually does. When it does that, it creates this thing called a mask. And so that's the black areas are transparent and the white areas are where you can see the original image. So if you go to the brush tool, if you just hit B, that'll bring up the brush tool here and change it to, let's say you change the color to black. So the one on top here is the current color. You can just start erasing yourself. If you hit X, it switches that color. So I can just switch to white and I can start bringing back whatever areas. So if I didn't like how it did, a certain part, I could, trim that away. And then that's really hard edge there. So I could go up to here, bring the hardness down to like 50%. And I could just kind of trim away some of this that I didn't like. So usually I'd go in really close here. I was just using Command plus and minus on my keyboard, and I'll just sort of like brush in some areas that I don't like. Brush out some things. Maybe I'd like smooth out some of the shoulder here or something, and I don't know. Whatever is kind of necessary. Usually I have to do a lot of painting, but for whatever reason, that one just worked really well. So now all of these I shot on my camera in log. So I'm going to do an extra step here that you may not have to do. I'm going to bring in a color lookup layer, and I'm going to do that option click in between the layers so it just applies to this picture. And I will load that LUT. Load, how do I, this one, there. Okay, I'm going to scale me up a little bit. Oh, my face kind of like large in this. People's eyes are drawn to the brightest part of an image. Like your eye probably wants to go up to here. So I want the face to be really noticeable, really bright, so that when you look at the thumbnail, the face is kind of where you're drawn to, and you connect with the emotion or whoever's kind of making that. So option click here again, just to apply it to the face. And then I'll bring up the whites here a little bit. I don't want to make it too bright. And then kind of these mid areas, I'll lock a point in there, and then I can bring down the shadows just a little bit. And then maybe it's too bright up here, so maybe we'll bring it down some of that. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. So that might be a little bit overkill for right now, but that's okay. We can always come back and adjust things. Other things that might be helpful for you is a color balance here. So with that, I can, like, anywhere that's red, I can kind of bring that a little bit more cool if I want, or I could make it a little warmer. Same with kind of the magentas and greens. If I'm looking a little too pinky, I can add a little bit of green, and then we could just cool down the image a little bit if we wanted to. Just all different things. I kind of like the kind of warmer greenish a little bit. I feel like that works a little bit. I don't think I look very good with the magenta look. So you can play around with that yourself. I'll also usually do a hue and saturation. And so I can kind of modify that overall tone a little bit more and then add some saturation if I want to, maybe some overall brightness. And, you know, if you also wanted to, I don't know, for some reason colorize it, you could do that too. That's great for, I might do something like that for the background, just to give it some a color tone to it. Actually, let's just do that for fun. So hue saturation, colorize it, and we can do like a blue for that. Maybe we'll. And now you have, you know, complementary blue and warm tones there. Okay, let's work on some text. So the one that I had before, I might do something similar to this. So let's do that. I'll hit the T tool, or I'll hit T for the text tool. And I use Montserrat for my thumbnails. I think a nice bold sans serif font is really good to go with. Helvetica might be another good one. I'm not really a font guy, so just don't use something like Times New Roman or I don't know, something. You want to have something that's like big and legible and bold. So I'm gonna do how to make motion graphics title. I don't know. From graphics, maybe templates. And we can change this wording later, but right now I'm going to start with being very literal of what this is about. So we'll do that, and we can change kind of the alignment properties here. I'll make this text really big, like this, and maybe that's too big. I'm gonna move me over, actually. I don't need to be out there in the center. And then we're gonna change the tracking here. Or is it leading? I always forget if it's tracking or leading. Okay, so let's make this text stand out. If we go down to effects, we can hit drop shadow. And the nice thing about it is I can add multiple drop shadows at once. So we're gonna first focus on a really tight drop shadow. So I'm gonna pick a blue here, kind of a rich, no, bright blue here. And we're gonna have the distance be really close, and then size be really tight here. I want it to be normal. It's kind of too purpley, too something. Okay, something like that works for now. Maybe we could also do like really blue, something like that maybe. And then we can add another one here. And if we select that, then we can do blue here. Add a little bit more distance, add a little bit more spread to it, like that. And then we can add another one, and we can make this a deep blue, and we can add a little bit more distance, a little bit more spread, size to it. And so just like the three iterations kind of the drop shadow really just make it stand out, where if we didn't have those, it'd be a little bit bland, but each successive one sort of adds a little bit more depth to it. And we could also change the blending mode on this to something to make it even more glowy. If we wanted to, we could add a stroke here. We can make this be, now I don't like how that looks, but we could do like a blue here. And we could just have this add like a little extra definition in there if we want. So then we want our complementary imagery. Now I liked how here I had this AE to Premiere. I thought that was sort of indicative of what was going on. I'll bring this in. I'll bring that down. And, you know, I'm not really recreating the wheel here, but essentially I would add the drop shadow the same way as I did before. And it might save all of them. So I might just be able to do that. And that's nice. So maybe the spread on this would be a little bit more. Oh, that already looks pretty nice. Maybe I'd have that kind of, I don't know. That, I mean, it already looks pretty good. And maybe I'll bring that behind the text here. No. You could rotate it some more and bring it behind here and just grab that. Copy layer styles. Copy layer style, and then I think I can just paste the layer style. And so then maybe I want like some sort of arrow. I can go grab one. I could make one. Let me just, for now, I'm just gonna draw one. We'll just, oh, actually, always make a new layer for stuff like that. This would be my starting point. This would be kind of like my first initial draft of the thumbnail. And I think that this is totally passable. Like I've seen thumbnails for this kind of content online and like this totally works. But if I wanted to iterate on it and do something different, if I wanted to make multiple versions of this one, then what I can do, this is what I like about the artboards, is I can select the thumb up here and it brings up these little plus icons. And when you hit one of them, it creates a new artboard. But if I click back up here and I hit Option and press this, it immediately makes a duplicate of that same one. So then I can go through and I can say, well, let me change the text to make, you know, killer custom graphics in Premiere. I don't know, whatever. That just makes it a lot easier to do versions for thumbnails. Okay, so I went ahead and made pretty much the same thumbnail in Canva fairly easily. Essentially, you upload your elements, and they don't let you freely cut out the background on an image. So what I did was I went to this website here and I cut it out and I just downloaded the preview image. It's super small, but I think for a thumbnail, you're not really going to be able to tell. Like you can see that that's not great, but if you punch it down to this size, the normal size for a thumbnail, I don't think you're really going to be able to tell. And so I was able to do the same thing, rotated the background, added a blur to it down here under the effects. And I also added this duo tone here, which I liked. So there's that. And then they had some custom text that you can use. So I used this glow one from down here. And then I just changed the font to Montserrat, which they had, and changed the size, changed the color to this blue here. I think I had to select this and then change the color. Yeah. And it looks fairly similar to what I was able to put together in Photoshop. I'm looking at that and I'm seeing that it's a little bit more punchy. So we could up the brightness of this, up the contrast, boost the highlights, drop the shadows a little bit, bring up the whites, bring up the blacks here. And we could do that. So that's just a way that you can make it for free in Canva without using Photoshop. So I really hope that that was helpful to you. Now, if you want to learn more about making videos for YouTube, then you should watch this video right here where I talk about a really easy way to upgrade the look of your videos and engage your audience better. See you there.